Is Japan expensive? No, especially with the yen taking a deep dive off of the 10-meter platform into a mostly empty pool. However, you do have the option to make any trip as expensive as you'd like. Of course, the ceiling is never really an issue, but in Japan, you do have the option to travel on a budget. So let's talk. So let's talk about transportation first. One of the major costs associated with traveling to any international destination is going to be that initial flight. Now, if you're coming from North America, on average, you can expect to spend about $1,000 to $1,200 per economy seat round trip. Of course, that does vary based on what time of the year you're going, how far in advance you're booking. And occasionally you can find some ridiculous deals which do require an extra stopover, but it can drop the price as low as $600 or $700, which in my opinion isn't worth it that much. I might prefer, in this case, to spend a little bit less time in transit, arrive a little bit more fresh, more energetic, and get on with my vacation right away than spending 24 hours flying, for example. Now, once you land in Japan, your options become significantly larger as far as getting around. By far, the most expensive option is taxi. If you're trying to save money, by all means, avoid the taxi at all costs, unless it is an emergency, of course. For example, if you're going to be taking a regular taxi from Narita Airport into Tokyo, it's going to cost around $200 US. That is absolutely ridiculous, especially when you consider the next option, which is actually better, more comfortable. That's going to be those express trains. They're going to be around $25 US. So that's going to be the Narita Express, for example. Now you can take that a step further and you can spend $10 US and take a local train. The only difference is it's not going to be as comfortable. You're not going to have dedicated luggage space. And if you happen to come in during rush hour, you do have to share that train with the locals. So that is the offset as far as the price, the comfort is concerned. You have additional options. There are also buses and shuttle buses, which you can take anywhere between that $10 and $20 US range. So again, many different options for many different budgets, and depends kind of the experience you want to have too. Maybe you want to be on that local train and kind of see how the locals travel on their day-to-day lives. It really depends. So as far as intercity travel is concerned, the most expensive option by far is going to be the bullet train, the Shinkansen. The bullet train is especially going to get a lot more expensive because the JR passes are going to be increased between 60 and 70% this coming fall. So as of 2024, I don't foresee too many people are going to be buying the 2-week or even the 3-week JR pass because the cost is going to be unreasonable, especially in comparison to, again, either buying the individual passes or finding a different mode of transportation. Just to give you an example, a one-way Shinkansen ticket generally costs between $100 and $200 plus US for one person, of course, depending on how far you are traveling. So between Tokyo to Sendai, it's about $100. Tokyo to Kyoto, it's about $120. Tokyo to Fukuoka, it's about $217, $220 US, again, for one person, one way. That gets very expensive very, very quickly. And we used to get a lot more value from that JR pass. However, again, that's not going to be the case, especially here in Canada. That 2-week pass is very, very close to about $1,000 after the exchange, assuming the exchange does level out in the future. So not worth it in that regard. The best way to travel now, in my opinion, is to utilize the Japanese local carrier cheap flights. And those ones can range anywhere between $40 and $70 for a very quick trip if you plan this in advance and say you find accommodations that are near Haneda Airport, which makes it a quick 10-15 minute train ride into the airport, and then you can catch your flight. It's usually 1 or 2 hour flight in just about most major cities on the main island in Japan. It's going to be significantly better. Again, I've seen costs as low as $40, but let's just say a one-way flight is going to be in that 50 to 70 range. So incredibly efficient, much faster, more comfortable, presumably. I'm not sure exactly how much comfort you're going to get on a low-cost carrier, but again, you're also not spending 4 or 5 hours on a train. So there is that offset. Now, one additional option that I'd like to mention is for those of you that like backpacking or hostel hopping or anything like that. Maybe you're a student fresh out of university and you want to spend a month, just roaming the countryside in Japan and seeing everything there is to see. There is something called a night bus. What the night bus is essentially combines both transportation and accommodations into one. Night buses can be rather comfortable. They have the larger lazy boy type seats that recline. They have Wi-Fi, they have air conditioning. And the general idea behind highway buses is that if you're going a little bit further, let's say you're going from Tokyo to Kyoto, for example, you can take this highway bus and you can sleep on the bus overnight as you're traveling into the new destination that you are interested in. So that can work quite well if you prefer that level of flexibility and if you can actually sleep on a bus. I personally cannot, but if I could, I would certainly consider that, because you're also saving time with those night buses, since you basically wake up the next day at your new destination. You don't wake up at your hotel, take the train, then arrive. You're not wasting that transit time. So that is another option available too. And again, the prices are going to range there depending on the company, how far in advance you book, and your travel time. So do make sure to do your research in advance if that is something you are interested in. So this brings us to our second talking point, which is going to be accommodations. In my opinion, accommodations in Japan are incredibly affordable, and this is true for the vast majority of the country. There's only a couple little caveats that we have to talk about. The first one is Tokyo. Tokyo is the largest urban area in Japan. It is also incredibly hyped. You have the famous districts, Shinjuku, Harajuku, so on and so forth. And as a result, it is going to be pricier than just about any other city or town in the country. The second caveat, speaking of towns, is going to be the little tourist-centric towns like Hakone. Hakone is the perfect example of this, where the vast majority of their industry is going to be tourism, and you're going to pay a premium for that. So if you want to stay at a 4 or 5 star onsen in Hakone, you're looking at about $600 to $800 US per night. However, there is a way we can circumvent that, and I'm going to show you in just a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump onto Expedia. There's no reason for that. I'm not associated with Expedia in any way, shape, or form. In fact, if you are booking your trip, I encourage you to go to every single site that is available in your region and make sure you're getting the absolute best deal. Expedia is something that everyone generally knows about and has access to. It's one of the larger travel sites. So that's what we are going to explore on. Of course, deals are even better on the smaller sites, and depending again on what time of the year you're booking, how far in advance, so on and so forth. So always make sure to plan accordingly. Okay, let's jump into Expedia and take a look. So here we have a very generic date range, November 14th to the 17th. It is still fall, it's still high time as far as I'm concerned, one of the most popular times of the year to travel to Japan. I'm going to choose Tokyo so we can gain a good understanding of the price ranges across the various districts and sub-cities in Tokyo. So if we look at Shinjuku City, it's fair to say that the average cost is around $150 US per night. Some of these cheaper options, your $86, your $74, your $73, these are going to be business hotels, very much like the Appa Hotel. And some are still relatively close to the primary transportation hubs, such as Shinjuku Station. So Shinjuku is a good place to stay if you don't need access to that Shinkansen every single day, which is going to be at Shinagawa Station or Tokyo Station. If we move down towards Shibuya City and let's do a quick search there, the prices go up quite a bit. I would say around Shibuya Crossing, Shibuya JR Station there, your average is going to be around 175 to 250 per night. And depending on, again, what time of the year you're going, you might catch a good deal or you might get even higher prices than this. Now, the other option, as far as a budget option is concerned, is Taito City around Ueno and the Asakusa area. If I do a search right there, you're going to see the prices drop quite a bit. It's going to be around that $55, $60 to $70 range. However, you are again trading convenience for price. So these locations are a bit out of the way. You might not even be close to a subway station and certainly not the JR lines. So you will have to travel on the daily a little bit extra than you would in some of the other parts of Tokyo. However, if the cost saving is worth it for you, especially if you're traveling with like a larger family, 5 or 6 people, this will absolutely save you a lot of money in exchange for a little bit of extra time. So that's basically the price point you can expect in Tokyo. Osaka is the second largest city in Japan, and you would expect the prices in Osaka to be very similar to Tokyo. However, once we jump on the map here, and let's zoom into Osaka, you're going to see that the price points in Osaka are vastly cheaper than they are in Tokyo. We have some accommodations here for $40 US per night, $53 per night. These are going to be those APA hotels. This is the exact hotel that I stayed in when I went to Osaka. It wasn't this cheap when I went, but it is very, very affordable. These are primary destinations in Osaka. I'm not going to talk about them in this video because I already have a top 3 places to stay in Osaka video, so feel free to check that out. But Shin Osaka is the primary hub for the Shinkansen. You have the Osaka Station here, which is the primary hub for Osaka City. Most of the train lines connect here, excluding the Shinkansen. And then you have Namba, which is where the Dotonbori area happens to be. This is where the prices are going to be a little bit higher. This is where all the nightlife is. But even so, their higher prices are basically the average price in Tokyo. Let's move on to another destination. Let's check out Fukuoka. Again, another major destination in Japan. And if we look at Hakata Station, this is the primary Shinkansen station in Fukuoka. The prices are incredibly reasonable, even more so than in Osaka. Again, the highest prices here, 167, 123. These are going to be the average prices in Tokyo. And Fukuoka is a fantastic place to stay. Don't forget to check out the little ramen booths that they have there where you can be shoulder to shoulder with the locals, sharing a hot meal, a cool story. And the Hakata station itself is where a lot of the cool shopping areas that you may have seen in other videos are going to be. The really cool fancy streets. The large Buddha is a fantastic day trip as well. So again, very, very cheap across the rest of Japan. One more destination I'd like to show you is Sendai in the far north. When we click on that map again, we're going to see much of the same. Now, there is 5,000 a night. We're definitely not going to stay there, but all of the major accommodation options around Sendai Station are going to be very much the same as they are in Fukuoka and Osaka, and significantly cheaper than in Tokyo. Why would you want to go to Sendai? Just a quick pro tip. Matsushima Bay is considered one of the most beautiful places in Japan, and if you happen to be coming to Sendai, it is worth the quick train ride over to Matsushima. Lots of beautiful islands. You can take a cruise ship and explore them all. You can take a self-guided walking tour around one of the main islands that has that very long red bridge you've probably seen before. And if you are stopping in Matsushima, this is a fishing town, so if you're going to have seafood, this is the place to really enhance that culinary experience with some fresh off the boat seafood. Very, very amazing, very delicious, and very reasonable prices as well. Now, I did mention that Hakone is the perfect example of what a touristy destination and the prices associated with that would look like. So let's check out Hakone really quick. There we have Hakone. Clicking on the map, we're going to see some ridiculous prices in the Hakone region right here. As you can see, some of the more affordable options are around 230 to 270 US dollars per night. I'm not sure what that is, maybe a campground or a hostel or something. But if you want to stay in one of the fancier onsen properties, again, you're looking at 500 upwards of $1,000 per night. There's a few 800 options, as I mentioned earlier. So you're definitely going to get grilled as far as the tourist experience is if you want to stay in the heart of Hakone. However, as we just discovered, most other cities and towns around the country are going to offer you substantial savings as far as your accommodation options are concerned. So if we just go 30 minutes to the right to where Odawara happens to be, again, the prices drop significantly. We're going to have a few budget options around that $50, $70 US per night range. And from Odawara Station to take a train into Hakone is a very, very quick 35 minutes. So if you're planning on spending multiple days in Hakone and you want to treat yourself one night, by all means, you can do that. Otherwise, you can save a substantial amount of money by staying in Odawara and just commuting for 30 minutes every day into Hakone and really exploring everything that Hakone has to offer. Our final talking point is going to be food. Now, food can also be incredibly reasonably priced in Japan. In fact, most restaurants that you're going to encounter on just your daily walks around the random streets, wherever you happen to be going, to whatever destination you happen to be going, they're going to be serving multiple dishes, multiple courses within that 10 to 20 US dollar price range, which is fantastic. Even the cheap kaiten sushi places that are going to run you around $20, depending on how much you're eating, could be even less. While they're cheap in price, they're still incredibly good in quality and taste. Again, with a country like Japan, where you have a very high food standard, the lines really get blurred between price and quality. So you can get incredibly quality food for very, very low prices. Now, that is the case for a variety of different foods. You have your okonomiyaki, you have your takoyaki, sukiyaki, the vast majority of the food that you're going to find, your ramen, your soba, incredible prices. As I mentioned at the start of the video, you can get a bowl of Michelin star quality, 1 star, still 1 Michelin star for a bowl of soba for $10. That is unheard of. You're not going to get anything like that out here in the West. And that makes me wonder about this one particular point. Allow me to go on a rant, which does have a point of illustrating something that I'm trying to get at eventually. But anytime I go to a major city like Tokyo, I always see a line out the door at a McDonald's. And I don't understand why, because the vast majority of that line is comprised of foreigners. So maybe they miss the taste of home, you know, those cardboard patties that we can have in our Big Macs. I'm just kidding. Of course, you can eat whatever you want. It's your vacation. And McDonald's in Japan does have unique menu items which are not available at other McDonald's around the world. So that might be why it is a bit of an attraction. But the point I'm trying to get to is buy local, and you're going to get a much better price and a better experience, in my opinion anyways. Part of the reason we travel to international destinations is to partake in their culture, to learn something new, to really immerse ourselves in that experience. And if you're going to go to traditional Japanese restaurants and just, you know, try a variety of different things that you may not have available to you in your own country or your own city, it's going to give you a unique perspective, and again, at a much better price. This is especially the case if you're also shopping. Anything that is imported into Japan, you're going to pay a premium for. So again, shop local, you're going to get much better value, and you're going to learn something new. So as far as food is concerned, you can take it a step further. We are all familiar with the Japanese convenience store experience. You can jump in there, get an onigiri, a rice ball, of which there are countless flavors, I should say. If only someone would do me a favor and send me a few onigiri my way. I love those things. You can get in there for just a couple dollars, grab a rice ball, spend another couple dollars on a 500 milliliter can of beer or any other drink variety. The choices are truly endless at the convenience store in Japan. You have hot food options, you have buns, you have bento boxes, you can, make your own ramen immediately in the store there. Fantastic. Again, everything for less than $5, and you can customize and build your own meals. But as cool as the convenience store experience is, you can find a lot of those same products in your Japanese supermarket. So if you like your onigiri, if you like your bento boxes, if you like those cool little sandwiches, you can find that same stuff, pro tip, at the grocery store. So step in there, you're going to get a better price, and generally they might even be slightly more fresh. So that's going to do it for this video. Thank you very much for your patience. I know it's a little bit longer than usual, but I really wanted to cover a little bit of everything and just give you a general idea of where you can save money and how you can curate your itinerary around a certain price point, if you will. So thank you very much for your time, your viewership. I appreciate you all very, very much, and I'll see you in the next one.